What's going on, everybody, and welcome to the Ask a CISSP episode of the Other Side of the Firewall podcast. We talk about the latest and greatest cybersecurity news, as well as we highlight those movers and shakers and glass cylinder breakers, those people of color who made it to the other side of the proverbial firewall. Speaking of a mover and shaker, today I have on Brian Albertson, and he is a GRC architect, and he is the president of the ISACA Atlanta chapter. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you doing today?
Oh, I can't complain. Sunny Florida.
There you go.
Cannot
I'm
complain.
in sunny Atlanta, so.
There it is. So no, I really appreciate you taking the time to come on the podcast. I see a lot of your posts on LinkedIn where you're shedding light on opportunities that come out for people to be able to find jobs. So that's always very important. I think that's a very important part of the pipeline, right? Like you can have all the education experience in the world, but can I find a job? So I do appreciate your work, and whenever I see it, I try to share it.
I appreciate that. It is one of the privileges of being here. I got to move here in 2016, and it is a vibrant, energetic community with all sorts of education, schools, businesses. And what most people don't even understand about Atlanta, there are a ton of startups in Atlanta and incubation centers. So we are, as that movers and shakers, we are definitely moving and shaking and really want to help our next generation be in a position of choice for their careers, being where they want to go, what they want to do, and be able to have the life they want to live. So that is my passion of what I do and why I do everything I do.
No, that's awesome. So I would like to, because this is the first time we're meeting each other, right? Like talk about your background and your experience and what brought you into GRC.
Yeah, my GRC path is not a straight line path. It starts when I was 8 years old. My dad owned a business and he went and got a TRS-80 Model 3 to do inventory for his business.
Wow.
Yeah. So I was 8 years old, had to use a booster chair to actually get up on the computer keys and everything else. And this is before the world of ergonomics.
Right.
And I learned to code. I learned basic Pascal and Fortran. And then for those who remember way back, there was this thing next to some of the Radio Shack stores called the Tandy Store, and they would actually teach classes. So some of my first classes were actually at the Tandy Store, and there's people in ties and dress shirts, and then there's this little awkward 9-year-old learning how to code in Pascal and Fortran.
That's awesome.
So I got into computers very early, really loved what they could do and everything else. And then from there, started going to school and realized I wasn't ready for school. School wasn't ready for me, something like that. And joined this group called the military and the Army.
Oh, there it is.
So, so I went into the Army as a flight ops and did flight ops for 2 years active duty, which made me realize getting a degree was a really important thing. And so my goal was actually to go back, get my degree in computer science and come back into the military as an officer.
Awesome.
But then I came out during this little thing called Y2K is when I graduated.
Okay. Right.
And when you have the backgrounds that I did and the clearances I had, I was getting recruited quite heavily. The largest auto insurance company in the US kind of came knocking. I interned there the year prior and they offered me a job and it's like, okay, what do I do? Go stay in a desk and get to work with some of the world's best in the field because
right.
They had the largest network only to DARPA at the time, where they physically owned their network. So they were huge in this, and we've divested from that some. But they had all the tools and everything else, or go back into the military. So I made the choice of going to them, and had a very good career with them. Started off as a developer, got into that, and developed some of the financial systems because we started a bank there, which is an insurance company started a bank.
Yeah.
We built it from the ground up. So I learned banking and then all of a sudden they, serviced it. And then one of the groups goes, we need you to think about going into internal audit. And I'm like, me? Internal audit? Why? We need someone to build the bank program. And since you built most of the bank, you can't audit it, but we can do that. So then the next thing you know, I got introduced to the entire world of audit from what now we would talk about as a white knight type auditor. My job was to break State Farm every day and use LockCrack and everything else.
That's an awesome job.
Yeah. So it was pretty fun, right? Got to do that and then build the bank program and then got into that was fun for about a year or two, but after a while, auditing wasn't where I wanted to be. It was kind of like, okay, this is easy, but I can't fix anything, and I'm a fixer. I learned that about my career and myself. So got the opportunity to jump into IT operations and service management and really restructure that from the ground up. And operations. And that was probably and help different groups consult. I was like a consultant internal to the company for a little bit
Okay.
on that, which is kind of interesting. Yes, big companies have their own internal consultants because you have to know the products, you have to know the technology. And then all of a sudden one day my boss walks in and goes, "Hey, by the way, by the end of the day, I need 5 bullets that make you you." And I'm like, "Huh?" And a couple days later, I was sitting across from some of our executives and having coffee and getting interviewed to be an executive assistant.
Okay.
And shortly thereafter, we were working on some projects, and 2009 hit. We were one of the largest internet banks at the time. And if you remember all that time, the new regulator, we went from being under the OTS to the OCC, and we became heavily regulated. And that's when we learned we have some opportunities. So got to work in that, build that program, rebuild information security and the structure there with leadership and help build our risk and compliance. And since then, I have been in this space since about 2009 on the cybersecurity side, on the risk side, on the control side, and now get to serve as a GRC architect. And along that opportunity came in 2016, leadership said, "Hey, we think you should go to Atlanta." And I did. And I loved every minute of it because it's a vibrant community, as we've talked about. I've gotten to build relationships with the schools. And through that, build my relationship as ISACA, move up through ISACA, and now in my 4th year as the president of the ISACA Atlanta chapter, where we've really re-innovated and breathed life into that group. And we are now sitting over 3,300 members right now in the chapter.
That's amazing, and it really does show the building blocks of how you became who you currently are and what you do. You know, kudos to you. My son is my youngest son. When I was talking about earlier, he's really big into code. You know, we're trying to nourish that and encourage it, and he's currently going into coding school where he's learning you know, C sharp and what's the other one? It's man, it starts with a L. It's I want to say Lulu.
It might be Lulu, but yeah, there's
Yeah,
a couple out
but
there.
yeah, just to build games and things of that nature. Like he just loves gaming, so he makes
That's
robots
awesome.
games and other types of games. Like he really enjoys it. And then he recently did a school project, so I know it's going to take him far. So it's good to see an example of that, where someone who started at a very young age enjoying it, and now it's becoming a crucial part of your backstory. Your cybersecurity origin story. So that's awesome. It's also awesome that you are in the Atlanta pocket, right? So with the podcast, we're syndicated. We're on WDJY 99.1 FM in Atlanta metro area. I don't live in Atlanta. It was a target of opportunity. I was approached by the radio station. They said, "Hey, we have New York, we have Colorado, and we have the Atlanta area." And I was like, "I want Atlanta." That's definitely the demographic I want to speak to. What times can I be on? And when they gave me all the times, one of them was 5, and I was like, I've gone through Atlanta, but I'd never lived in Atlanta, and I was like, they're going to be stuck in their cars. Perfect. I was like, I'll catch them in rush hour, and it's worked out ever since. So it's serendipitous that we would cross paths and be on the podcast.
And it's amazing. I mean, you talk about the things and the opportunities. A couple of weeks ago, I was at Kennesaw State University for the first regional hackathon for a fintech hackathon for high school. Now, 120 plus
It's awesome.
students from high school showed up to Kennesaw on a Saturday morning at 8 o'clock. And we're there all day. And I mean, they're building fintech solutions with AES 256 encryption, multi-factor authentication, an hour. And
Right.
it's just
Yeah.
amazing to see the energy and everything else. And you want to give them all as winners, and they all are. They're all going to be amazing all-stars, but only a few could win. And it was really great to see that's what we're building in Atlanta. And then last fall, we got to see the first statewide fintech hackathon, which was about 60 some teams from schools from all over the state of Georgia came to Kennesaw again. And believe it or not, the winner was a high school.
That
So
is
think about
amazing.
that.
Yeah.
We have some pretty good top-notch tech schools in Atlanta, and a high school team beat them.
It's also really good to see the STEM programs up and running and like firing all cylinders, right? When we started the podcast, we talked about how Bell South was coming down and Microsoft and Amazon, everybody was trying to get into that area, right? To kind of establish their STEM pipelines and grab kids as they, were graduating high school or going into HBCUs and things of that nature. So it's really good to see it's actually, happening and maturing. So hats off to you and the fine citizens of Atlanta. I've only driven through, going from Duluth I think is how you
Yeah.
pronounce it. So that's where, the company I worked for, that's where they were based out of. Now I have family in, LaGrange. I don't know if you heard of LaGrange? Kind of a small town, and I visited that, and I was like, this is pretty cool." Like, I like the area. But again, I have to go to Atlanta at some point, so I can experience it.
You'll have to come because, like, next, probably a little short notice for you, but next week, the ISACA Atlanta chapter actually has its Geek Week conference, and it's in
Oh,
its
awesome.
19th year. And we don't run a big conference on purpose. We run it so people could actually network and build relationships. And we cap off the audience, and it's not your typical conference because it's all dialogue driven. So the presenters know to talk, but they know most of the time they're not going to get through their presentation. And the first time
Okay.
we shifted this about 3 years ago, they were all freaking out, like, "Am I going to be able to come back?" And I'm like, "Well, what happened?" They're like, "We got to slide 3, and then we had this amazing conversation for 50 minutes." I'm like, "You're fine." But that's what we have changed the Atlanta community into, where it's networking, it's collaborating, we're partnering across different groups. So it's not, the ISACA Atlanta chapter is working with the entrepreneur group TIE in
Okay.
Atlanta, the Atlanta chapter there. And so we're connecting all these groups together and to really build, all these opportunities for a next gen. Because I mean, having a next gen and having a 16-year-old that's in the first ever College Board cybersecurity class. I don't know if you've heard of this, but College Board is
No.
actually piloting this year the cybersecurity curriculum. And so it'll be a 2-year class on cybersecurity. The first year is mainly on networking and all those things that you need to know, but it's a 2-year class. And so, you know, we're now actually starting to get where we want to be, which is we're developing all the way into high school. So these students can see the amazing opportunity, but then also giving them the soft skills where they can actually communicate what they're learning.
Right. And that I think that's one of the most important aspects of, getting through that glass ceiling and, reaching the next level only because you can be very technical and skilled, but if you ever want to, you know, take the reins, you're gonna have to be able to communicate. What does the tech do? What is the bottom line here? How is this, impacting the business? Or how if we don't do this, does it impact the business? And I think I've seen a lot more of that being built into programs. So it's really good to hear that yours is doing the same. So with that 2-year program, so that's the pipeline brings them in, it skills them up. Like you said, it trains them on soft skills. And then what about placement?
So that's the thing, because this is College Board. This is like, like AP, physics. It's actually ran by College Board. We're just kind of supporting the local school that's piloting it where we can. So the idea is that, yes, this is showing the students they have opportunities. And then a lot of this, as it goes mainstream, the idea is to connect them into the universities, whether that's, in our space, one of the HBCUs, Spelman, Morehouse, and Clark, with Georgia Tech, UGA. We have Georgia Southern, Georgia State. We got Kennesaw. We got University of North Georgia. We have all these tech schools that have amazing cyber programs. And the best part about Georgia is they can start off at a regional school, a regional college, and then transfer. If as long as it's the same school, they can actually in class, they can go up to the next rung and they can finish at an Ivy League school in Georgia and all their credits transfer.
Awesome.
How the education system works here in Georgia with the Board of Regents, they've really kind of thought it through and they keep on extending that reach. And then College Board's doing its part. And then we do things like with Boys and Girls Club a couple of years ago, we partnered with CompTIA before they split up. And we ended up talking and they wanted to talk at one of their national conferences that was here in Atlanta. And they were like, "Hey, we want you to talk." I'm like, "I got a better idea. I'll talk, but I'm going to bring someone with me." And I brought the vice president of IT from Boys and Girls Club of Metro Atlanta. And we talked about the next generation and what the needs were. And that then allowed them to get the Spark program, which teaches those people that may not get into it 3D printing, developing code, cybersecurity, AI, all these different tech courses become available to them at their local Boys and Girls Club. So,
Yeah, that's great reach. Like we have some programs. So I'm in the Tampa area, right? We have some really good programs and some technical high schools and obviously colleges. But it sounds like you guys have like full, like large scale. Like if you're interested in STEM, we will get you into a program that teaches you. So that's great, especially for the the demographics of Atlanta. It's a melting pot, right? It's a lot of diversity, and it's good to see that those programs are still running and going full steam. What does the future look like? Like, what is that next initiative?
the next initiative for me, because this is as my my ISACA chapter leadership team. They've coined it the senior year for me because this is a 4-year transformation I've led of how we do things differently. We actually have a talent pipeline for leadership that will be the next generation leadership. Literally, our team it's amazing. I'm so privileged to be with this group and live with them because it's a community. We've created that. That's my family. And the great thing of watching them is 2 of them literally celebrated their 30th birthday last year, and they're officers of one of the largest chapters for ISACA in the world. And they're innovating and they're bringing new ideas in, scholarship ideas, all sorts of different things. And so they're developing the next generation beyond that.
Right.
So that's going to let me do some new things. And the new things that I'm really focused on is going back into the universities and really being an industry advisor and spending a lot more time with that. Recent announcement is I'm going to be one of the fintech industry advisors for Kennesaw State University.
All right.
And so I can spend more time with the students and get back into that. Because I really see we need to have practitioners that are knowledgeable of the trade craft to support the academia people to really build it out. Along with that, I got asked by a publisher last year to write a book.
Okay.
I sent it to them earlier this year. They said, "Okay, Brian, we have a slight problem." I'm like, "What's wrong? Your book's too long."
That's the best problem to have.
I'm like, "Okay, so we're going to cut this down." They're like, "Actually, we want you to cut it into 2 books."
There it is.
So
Yeah.
it's going to be kind of, if you've ever read, the Phoenix Project, the 5 Dysfunctions of a Team, some of those books where they're more of a story that teaches lessons. That's why I wrote it. And it's around GRC and leadership.
Okay.
And the funny backstory, my daughter had to point this out to me, was the thing that almost killed me in 2017 is what I ended up writing about. We were actually helping a neighbor and they hadn't cut their grass in forever. And I ran over 2 ground bee nests and got stung over 200 times.
Man.
So life was not good for a couple weeks.
Right.
And so the funny part is I actually wrote it about the hive because bees are organized and everything else. But there's also times where bees got to question things. And that's the story of this one. So I'm really looking forward to it and, really getting it into the hands of future students so they understand how to challenge things. How do you talk in a room? How do you and think differently? And so the 2 books are going to come out. The other idea with that is then some workbooks come out with it to help people navigate
Got it.
and how to do it in the GRC space because it's really moving fast. Just if you look at what happened in the last week, with AI and all of a sudden all the concerns about it is a
Right.
nice way to say it, right? You're seeing, as I joke about it, the regulators are back in town. After about a 6-year hiatus, you're seeing most companies, the regulators are coming back in, they're questioning things, they're back. And there's a lot of people that during that 5-year time never experienced that. So now how do they handle that? How do you talk to a regulator? How do you know what to say and when to say it and when to say, we'll get back to you on that.
Now that's brilliant. Yeah, like you said, I think there is a lot of heightened scrutiny right now from the, OCC, FIEC, like all these organizations are really cracking down, right? Especially around governance as well as now AI.
Yeah, and privacy, don't forget that. Now you have each
Right.
state having that. And coming from an insurance background, I'm used to having attorney generals and commissioners at each state, but most companies aren't anymore. So that's a big change of how you're going to manage that, how you're going to handle that. How do you handle potentially conflicting requirements? And then you've got to understand how your tools are going out there. And, it's a different landscape because you actually have to understand did we get information on the customer before they click the opt-out button? And, we're finding out that there's tools out there that before you can actually have good intentions,
Mhm.
they're scanning to make sure that someone's not a threat, but they're pulling back information that maybe you don't really want that information. So how do you handle that now? This is a whole new world with privacy. It's not just the customer data in the typical NPI and higher. It's also, okay, did we get that data? Did we put it in a notebook? No. How are we going to tell who used it when? Those are
Right.
real questions. And if you don't have protections around some of your tools, it's going to cost you some money. And we're seeing that in actual fines that have come out in the last couple of weeks. And the thing is, fines are actually the small part. And the settlements, if you read them, then they have to be fully compliant to whatever state law that they weren't compliant with. And that's a lot more money than the fine. The fine is almost like the tip of the iceberg.
Mm.
And we're seeing that more and
That's
more.
fascinating. No, that's fascinating because I always think globally, like, we have GDPR and PIPEDA and all those other things. You think those really big frameworks and governance, you're like, oh, are my customers or clients, in one of these areas? How do I remove this data? But we often forget that, yeah, all 50 states are starting to fire on all cylinders and saying, hey, this is Texas ramp versus Rhode Island ramp versus so on and so forth. And yeah, it's really it's good, right? That they have a vested interest within their constituents, right, to make sure that they're safe. And we've been kind of behind the ball here in the States, but it's also daunting, right? As each state comes online, you have to, hopefully you have a good tool that helps you to know, like, hey, we may have an issue here. We need to pivot. So your book sounds fascinating. Like, do you have a window when we can expect it?
I just got notice from the editor that it's going to full editorial review, both of them at the same time.
Okay.
So we're looking sometime in the fall or early 2027.
Awesome. Yeah. Whenever you get a date, definitely let me know, and I'll make sure I put it in the newsletter, and I talk about it on the show. So there's a lot of authors come on here on this show, ironically, right? I think I probably had at least
If you
10 in the past 2 years.
if you would have told my parents when they were alive that I was going to be an author, they would be rolling over right now. And it's just the privilege of the opportunities you get. And, that's why I'm so big on developing our next generation, because I had people that poured into me. It started at a young age with my dad enabling me with my passions, teachers in school. Then in the military, I had mentors in the military. Then I had mentors outside my company. And now I have mentors across the globe that I get to talk to and communicate with. Um, if you think you're going to do this alone, you're not. You need to build your network. And so when I go talk to universities, one of the things I tell them is, if you're a freshman, you need to be connecting to me on LinkedIn and start building your network now. If you're a junior or senior, you're about 3 years too late.
Right.
And
No, I love that message. Like you're preaching right now. I actually spoke to somebody on LinkedIn today.
Mhm.
Very similar message, like, because he's very talented. He has a lot of education and certifications and things of that nature. You said, what am I missing? I said, well, what does your network look like? Right. Because that your network is your net worth, right? There's those people who can speak about you in a room that you don't have access to yet. So I love it. Like, I think that's a great message, and it just needs to be shared, more, because people just think like, okay, I'm going to get 5 certifications in my degree, and I'm going to just, I got it. And that's just not the case in any career field. Like, it always comes down to who knows you and what you know, and then that can help launch your career. So that's great.
yeah, and the other thing with that is, that's why one of the groups we partner with is called ATL Tech TECH dot events. And it literally is a site where people can post all the different groups, B-Sides and ISSA and ISACA and IAA, TAG. All these different groups are posting out their events so people can see where they're at. And it also helps us from the other side, from when, like, as a chapter leader, that we don't schedule them all on the same day.
Right.
um, which tends to be a problem sometimes. So, it's really actually helped create a lot of partnerships. So yeah, it's a great way to connect. And I wish more cities did that, because when I tell cities we have that, they're all like, how'd you do that? And I'm like, go talk to my friend Eric. He's the one that developed it. It's a privilege, because we have people that have that passion to connect people. And again, you talk to anybody that's been in this space, if they said they don't have a group and mentors and peers that they have that they're talking to, yeah, I think that's the unicorn. Most
Right.
of us lean on each other. I mean, I've got friends that I know I could text them and ask them, because they're the expert in their field, because this field is so broad. You can't know everything. So you have to start understanding kind of what you like. And I found out, like, didn't like auditing. I really like being an architect and really building things and fixing problems and figuring out how to build with architecture without saying architecture, because architecture is a bad word anymore. Because people think requirements and all that's going to take so long and everything else.
Right.
It's like,
Right.
what do you need and how do we help you? But that's a message that, you have to do with storytelling and a lot of other things that become tradecraft. I use the
Absolutely.
analogy. I use a great story. When I first got here, I had the privilege of going to the Porsche test track here in Atlanta and got to get into the first year of the Porsche Taycan, which is their first EV. And it has a very crazy mode called launch mode. And it does exactly what you think. It launches you into the back seat, just about. But before you do all that, have the Porsche engineer talk to you about the cars and things like that, and the track and what you're going to go do. This really stuck with me was this piece. Porsche has one engineering rule over everything else. Car can go as fast as it wants as long as it can stop faster. And then the guy goes, "We're going to prove it to you today." And they put you in the Taycan. They have you set it up with all the buttons and everything, and you're sitting there in the driver's seat, and there is no brake pedal on their side.
Okay. Right. Like
So
the
they
super
trust
vehicle.
you.
Yeah.
So you're in control of this, and they say, "See that cone way down there? When I tell you get close to that, I'm going to tell you to hit the brake and just put your foot on it and keep on it." I hit the gas. I go from 0 to 86 miles an hour in like 2.8 seconds.
That's what I'm talking about.
Okay. It threw me. I mean, I've been in aircraft and not got thrown around as much. And then I hit that brake and I stopped in 2.4.
So that's
Think about that.
amazing engineering. Yeah.
It's amazing engineering. And that's what controls are supposed to do. They don't inhibit an organization. They empower an organization to go as fast as you want. But if I got to hit the brakes, I've got to stop someone from having the wrong accesses. I've got to stop someone before they do something maybe they shouldn't. It works. Because do I understand the engineering on that? All the engineering they had to go through, the electronic modules and everything? A little bit with my automotive background, but not all the code and everything that they put in. I just know it works. And boy, was I thankful.
Right. So, I mean, you're definitely showing your storytelling chops.
Yeah.
So I cannot wait to read your book. And I'm going to steal your analogy, just letting you know. I'm going to rip it off.
Go for it. I like, that's one thing we do. It's just, when people know how to tell a good story and really help people understand, what it does is it really invokes emotion. It invokes camaraderie. It invokes a sense of, I'm part of this. And you take them on the story with them. One of the people I used to watch growing up, as I talk about it in doing all this, was Steve Jobs. If you watch, he was iconic for the one more thing, right? And as soon as you say that, everybody like nods and shakes their head, goes, yeah. But what people need to find is their one more thing. What makes them you? Is it telling a story? Is it being that one that can just hook people in the first 30 seconds? What is it? And people need to explore that. And as leaders, that's what we need to enable, is letting people be human beings. And that's the fun of getting to help people and coach people, is you get to see people grow up in this space. I got to stay a coder, but a computer only does what you tell it to. It's much more fun to be on this side of the house where you're helping people and you're seeing people grow and mature. Sometimes they don't necessarily hit the mark and you got to coach them up. But the thing is, then you see the ones that are just going to become that next executive, that next something. And it's just like, holy cow, this person's going to go far.
So I love your drive and I love your passion. What continues to motivate you? So it sounds as though like you recounted how a lot of people poured into you and you want to share that with other people and you want to make sure you prepare the next generation, but you have, a lot of irons in the fire. So what provides you that energy to continue to keep it going and then, innovate from there?
Innovate. One of the things, recently just got remarried.
Congratulations.
So I have an amazing wife, Susan. She's amazing. I have an amazing daughter, Amara. She's like, those two are like my rock, and it's great because they will go talk like they're talking now. I can hear them in the other room and do those things. And they're huge supporters of what we do and what I'm doing. So we have family first. And that's one of my mottos, right? We're here for each other and really focus on those things. And so I have my mission of 6 words: serve people, develop people, deliver results.
Okay. I like it.
And that is my mantra. And then my focus is my family, work, and then community. And if you get those things right, everything else just kind of falls into place. You don't have to play politics because, my goal is whatever organization I'm working for, is my job is to be helping them get the results for the customer and the end user, not for me or leader or whatever, that part of the organization. And when you start not playing the politic game and you start playing the result game, is it always a straight path? No, but it's rewarding because then you get to see the seeds. I'm getting to watch something in my day job where it's maturing, and it's really great to see. You get to see ISACA, the way it's growing locally and globally, and you get to see the next generation at some of these events. All of those things are just amazing to see, and that you get to be a part of the journey of someone and go, I got to help people. That for me is my motivation, and what I will probably be doing the rest of my life in some way, shape, or form. Because both my daughter and my wife will probably know I will probably never retire fully because I have such a strong passion for helping the next gen.
No, and it comes through and in your words, right? And as well as your actions. And you wanting to, pivot into speaking to I want to call them kids, but they're not kids, right? Like, so my oldest is a junior in college, right? So I want to call her a kid. She's 20. She's no longer a child.
Yeah.
But no, these young adults, like speaking to them and trying to prepare them for the future. So with that uh future aspect of the conversation, what does the future look like with the current, people are fearful and people are excited about AI. Where do you stand in the AI conversation? I like your personality, so I think we're going to come out with a really positive overlook, I hope.
AI, and I was talking because we're gonna be doing a talk next week, and I agree with my co-presenter. AI is like a wandering toddler right now. It's very entertaining. It can do some really cool things, but left unattended, it's gonna cause trouble. And if it's quiet, you really need to watch out.
Right.
Because
Anybody
you've
who has
we've
kids
always
knows that. Yeah. The
yeah,
room is like,
that's the
they're running around, tearing stuff up, and then silence. You're like, "Oh, Lord, what have they done?"
And if you get skilled at it, it's really going to help you accelerate. I've seen that in other groups I've advised, and doing things in startups. You're seeing so many people do it the right way, and they're taking their time with it. They're being slow, they're being methodical, and they're deploying it very well. Is it going to give you immediate ROI? No. Over time, it will. It's going to extend the reach of people. In my day job, I'm able to be 100% more productive than I was probably 2 years ago because I will literally have different prompts running at the same time. Just like back in the day when you had SQL queries, when you were having to get data and having to migrate data and doing different things, you would have different jobs running on the mainframe. You didn't just wait till one got done. I mean, I have agents that are running and doing things right now, both personally and professionally. That's the nature of the world. So you got to embrace it. The thing is, what we have to do is we have to put good controls around it, and that's where we're lacking. A lot of companies haven't put the better controls around the tools they're putting in, so it allows people to put some things that they shouldn't, and that's dangerous. And so educating people right now on what I call good AI hygiene is probably the biggest thing we need to be doing right now, and we probably aren't.
No, that's perfect. You worded it perfectly, better than I could have done when it comes to because we talk about cyber hygiene all the time. So, like when I go to my youngest school for like STEM night and things of that nature, I'm the cyber guy, right? So they invite me. I talk to the kids about good cyber hygiene and bad actors on the internet and things of that nature. And now I've started to add a little AI flavor. But no, you're right. Like AI hygiene is super important because people overshare. People who are in the on the production side, they don't always test, right? Or they're trying to be first to market. So there are a lot of bad habits that are being built. And I think like to narrow it down to AI hygiene, I think that's brilliant. Like that definitely sums it up to where they can understand like, okay, these are things that I need to practice in order to not be harmed.
And I think it also depends on what field you're in, because certain fields, they don't have as much regulation, so they can do more. If you're more of, franchisee and you're really not having direct customers, you may be able to use AI a little more freely. If you're in fintech, you're highly regulated. If you're in medical, you're highly regulated. So you have to think of it differently. You have to think of it by sector. And I see that's something that we're seeing more and more people that are understanding this. It is kind of like the early days of cybersecurity, where cyber hygiene came up. That became a big term. I think AI hygiene is going to become a big term. I also think, and you see it on Reddit, you hear people talk about, there's an over reliance and you get AI slop. Okay. So anybody listening, the biggest thing is if you're going to use it well, realize you still have to clean it up because at best it is a junior level analyst. You can't take what comes out of it and just go and cut and paste it into even create a slide deck.
Right.
You're still going to need to articulate it, tune it up a little bit, and make it that it is personal to that group and makes sense to that group. Because otherwise, I saw one thing where it just spit out something and it was like 42 pages. And it reminded me back in the day when I had vendors in one of my work efforts. And I joked about it. I think they get paid by the page because they would give you a 5-inch 3-ring notebook. And the only thing you read was the executive summary.
Right.
And then you would thumb to the sections you actually cared about. But AI can do that and it can distract and it'll tell you every idea is a great idea. No, it's not.
Yeah, the psychophant. I it that part bothers me the most out of everything. Like, because I use it also. The tools help me not only with my 9 to 5, but also with my passion being the podcast and all of the things that
Mhm.
come out of it, the book and the newsletter. So you just have to be very careful. Like, so you have to do it in context. So when it came to writing the book, no AI assistance, right? Like, I want that to be me, my passion, and things of that nature. But for research, sure, fine. But then you have to double check it. Anything that I went to search for, it's kind of like the Wikipedia of of search engines, right? It'll lead you to the links. You have to follow those to make sure they make sense, because it will, potentially give you a dead end. It'll make a link. It'll say, "This is where you find this thing at." And you click it, and it'll be like, "It doesn't exist." So I think people in that respect, you have to use it as an assistant. It cannot be, the be all, the end all of your research. When it comes to the podcast, right? It's amazing for, thumbnails and transcription and show notes. So you just have to be very careful, because I see a lot of people where you'll read a report and you can just tell, like, there's no human in this, right? It's very sterile. It's very, very matter of fact. It's things that you already know. Like, where's the ingenuity? Where's the thought? Like, we read 1,000 of these assessments, but what is your why? Like, why do I care? And I think that's going to be, not only important to keep us grounded, but also it's the bottom line. Like, why does the C-suite, why do the executives, why do the shareholders care if all you're doing is regurgitating AI, quote unquote facts back and forth? Like, you have to keep the human in there. And I think we both get it, right? But I think people are starting to kind of lose the plot. And I hope that changes in the next year or two. Like, it's a cool tool, it's fun, like, it does some really amazing things, but it's not you. You do more amazing things. Like, your ideas are what makes the AI fun, creative, and fascinating. Like, don't forget that. I think that's the biggest message I want to, share with people. Because yeah, AI slop is not just bad cartoons. It's that email you sent that didn't make any sense, or
Yeah.
or that the abstract you wrote for the research paper that doesn't tie anything together. Like, it's right. We have to get back to putting the human back in the loop.
Yeah, and I think what you're seeing is if you're good with AI, you're knowledgeable in your craft, and then AI is an accelerator for you to deliver that. You're seeing businesses. The first, I think it was like the first millionaire or billionaire just came out that used AI to build his business, and it's got like 2 people. But the person had a background in marketing and all these things.
Right.
We're seeing all these trends. He had the knowledge and then leveraged AI to automate all those things. That's the key I think people need to understand with it. And especially in our space with like GRC cyber, I joke about it that GRC is about to become CRG because we're going to be more about compliance and then using risk to manage the compliance. And
Right.
then we're going to have to figure out how to appropriately govern the risk. Because that's where the regulations are headed. And AI is about to get heavily regulated in the next couple of years. We all know that. And here's the fun thing. We all know regulation is 2 to 3 years behind technology at any given time, at best. So you look at laws and regs that have come out and standards that have come out about AI, well, those things aren't even relevant anymore.
It's very.
So
It's kind of like they assess the blast damage, right? It's like
yeah.
it already caused, whatever, whether it be ethical issue or dilemma or financial impact, or and then they're like, you know what, we should probably make a rule about this. And then, like you said, it comes out ever so slowly. So again, I don't want people to be fearful of AI. Like, I think it's no different than the calculator replacing the abacus, or the word processor replacing the typewriter. Like, it's just that people are like, no, we're gonna, like, the fear is being realized because some executives are just like, fire the whole team, replace them with AI. But what you don't see are the shadow requisitions that come out later on, where they're trying to get people back in the company because you need people. It didn't
Mhm.
do what they believed or they thought was advertised. to do. Like you said, it accelerates. It could either accelerate your workload and your workflow, or it could exasperate your issue. So you kind of have to pick a path and then go from there. So I think that's very wise. But I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you, like I like to always land a plane, on what are you doing outside of your craft? And it could, like a lot of entrepreneurs like yourself or innovators, your passion ties directly into your thing, right? But often I am surprised. Like, what do you do for you to recharge your batteries?
One of the things I also tell people, and this is something I do, is we have quarterly trips. I have quarterly getaways. Now, some of them are more intentional, and get to have fun, but I will generally try to take 4 vacations a year and take a break.
Awesome.
Uh, and that you get to travel to different things, do different things. It's kind of like history, all those types of things. As I'm a big proponent of know your history, or you're doomed to repeat it. So if you're working for a company and you just
Yeah.
started, go find as much stuff and go find that person that's been there for 30 years and find out all the backstories.
Right.
Have
Where
a
are the
good cup of
bodies
coffee
buried?
with Yes, and understand that because, by the way, you're gonna end up those things are going to come back at some point in time. So you don't want to repeat it because that's the definition of insanity, and no one likes that. And so I'm a big fan of those things. And then, yeah, we do have a little passion with cars. So, have fun driving. We got a little Mustang downstairs that we have fun with, and like the car shows and the car scene in Atlanta. So that's always fun to be around.
Well, that has to be amazing.
Yeah, Atlanta, yeah, just there's one called Caffeine and Octane. It literally takes over the entire mall in Kennesaw. It's crazy. And you can see just any type of car. You see the supercars, you see people with passion, on the different types of cars, and it's just a great experience. And then a lot of my passion is really just reading and keeping up on this. I am an agile learner. Because if you heard my career, it's not a straight line. So I'm always looking at what is the next phase. And that's why I say, GRC is about to flip to CRG. And people are trying to go, what does that mean? And we've been talking about embedding controls and automating controls. And you hear all those things, but then it's like, okay, well, how does that work? Because, you'll have a lot of people put white papers on that, but practically, how does that work? So just kind of playing with that and having fun. I still code, so I have fun with that too. And one of the things that was kind of funny is if you remember when, DeepSeek came out last year, you know, it's hard to believe it was only a year ago that that came out. Within 72 hours, that was being monetized on the dark web
I can believe it.
as hacking as a service.
Right.
And I was at a meeting with some people, and I was telling them that, like, how do you know that? I'm like, I still get it on my Tor account and go on the dark side every once in a while. And so you just end up having a passion for this because you live it, you breathe it, and it's just kind of cool. Some people
Right.
will look at you like you're nuts, but if you're really, this is what separates a person that's having a job in GRC or cybersecurity versus someone that's having a career, because I don't feel like I work at all. I love what I do. Sometimes is it a little crazy and a little nuts? Yeah. But at the end of the day, I'm going, I get to do this. I get to have fun. I mean, I get to develop people. I get to help people. And it just blows my mind away that I'm getting to do that. And if you were to tell my 18-year-old self, these are the things you're going to get to do at a much older age, uh, you're going, no, by the way, I think I'm just getting started. So, I'm looking forward to the future.
No, that's an excellent place to land this plane. Again, thank you for coming on the show and spending the time to break down your background, your experience. I'm sure, like, for those who are in your chapter, it's probably a blast, right? Because you're very passionate. It seems as though like you really love what you do, and it really comes through. Um, Not only the radio show, but when I follow you on LinkedIn, I see a lot of that as well. And I cannot wait to read your book. So as soon as that is, you have a date and a title and a date, please let me know, and I'll make sure I advertise on the show as well. And then, yeah, is there any place that people can see you in the near future or
I
connect
will
with you?
I'll be at Geek Week next week, Tuesday, Wednesday, and part of the day on Thursday. It's going to be at Sandy Springs. Seats are limited, believe it or not, because we actually fill up pretty accurately in that place. And again, we don't want to be the biggest conference. Our goal is to really help people connect and build relationships. And then most of the ISACA events, those types of things, and they can reach out to me on LinkedIn. I have a bunch of people that will reach out and ask for help, and I will try to help as many people as I can. And that's why I do that. I'm posting on Monday mornings because it's really trying to help our next generation, because there's all these different opportunities and then there's all these people needing them. So how do we
No,
make our people
absolutely.
opportunity.
Right. No, and again, I think that's one of the most important pieces of the pipeline because people get, they have their passion, their excitement, they have their education, their certifications, but then it's burnout when you're applying and applying and applying. So it's good to see, you're out there sharing that. So like, yeah, every Monday I see it, I try to repost it. I think that's an excellent way to start your week. But yeah, thank you again for being on the show. Please continue to check us out. So we are the Other Side of the Firewall podcast. This is the Ask a CISSP episode. So I try to make sure the show goes live Monday or Tuesday each week, sometimes a little bit behind, right? And then this episode with the interviews go out on Thursdays. I try to get all of it combined together for the newsletter. So if you have not subscribed yet, we call it the Weekly Rundown. Please make sure you subscribe to the newsletter. I think we have roughly 2,300 people right now. And then continue to listen to us on the radio, right? We're on WDJY 99.1 FM in the Atlanta metro area. It's about 25,000 of you guys listening to us on a weekly basis. We greatly appreciate that, as well as on the TuneIn app worldwide, right? If you're not in the Atlanta metro area or your podcast platform of choice. So definitely subscribe to all the channels that go by our name. We're on video on both YouTube and Spotify if you are a subscriber there. And you can pick up the book, The Other Side of the Firewall, at theothersideofthefirewall.com. You can check me out personally. I'm at RY Security Guy. That's RY Security Guy on LinkedIn. But you can also go to my website, RyanWilliamsSenior.com. And where can they find you, Brian?
You can just find me on LinkedIn. Just look up Brian Albertson. Trust me, I pop up pretty quick, and really focused on helping our next generation. So you'll find me anywhere in the Southeast, and starting to actually kind of run my talking opportunities, and you'll see more of me. But just check me out on LinkedIn. I'll keep everything going there.
There it is. Stay safe. Stay secure.